we developed the DNA, we'd had the bad video, we developed the DNA, we kind of started talking in a very different way. We knew we had to go, the branding isn't strong enough, it isn't bold enough. I think I said to you, when we were doing presentations, they weren't punchy enough in terms of the fonts and the language. So we did that, we nailed the DNA, and then we went into the branding. And I think if you look at the branding today versus when we started, there's a definite evolution. It's definitely stronger, definitely more confident. We grew up in hospitality.
Hotels made us.
And restaurants inspire us.
We set up Auden because we wanted to make an impact. I realised that hotel F&B wasn't what it was in its glory days.
Rubber eggs and the conveyor belt toasters. Oh, God.
But it still feels like the Auden that always was there
Which
and
is
intending, which
good.
is great.
And I think what's really important is too many people think that branding's a logo. Branding, a logo is part of branding, but it's a tiny part of it. Branding's how you live and breathe. And if you think about, I always like to link things back to global brands. You know, if you think about Emirates Airlines, for instance, you know, you immediately think a great service, you immediately think a great quality. They live and breathe it. I'm sure there's some people that have flown with Emirates going, really? But the majority of the time, if you live up to the brand promise, you live and breathe it. What was really interesting for me, the two things you said there, one was how you were living and breathing this evolution of who you were while staying true to your roots. And as you explained to me, Auden means your oldest friend, which means actually the ethos of the business is your oldest friend's got you. We're going to look after you. Who do you trust? Your oldest friend. And I think that's the little bit where you stayed the same and you kept true to those original beliefs. What was interesting was the evolution of the branding. It wasn't just the logo or a website. It was actually how you present yourselves, how you talk, how you communicate with the team, how you communicate with your guests. And for me, what was really satisfying was seeing that evolution. It's more than a logo. It becomes a way of life, and that brought me a great deal of joy seeing you guys do that.
Yeah, for sure, it was fun. As part of that, so we went to the website. We did the website. We updated it with the colour, the brand. We got Anastasia from a copywriting perspective to just really nail the mantra in text as well, and some of the sayings
just
that we
really
had,
popped it, didn't it?
It was just it just brought it to life in words, didn't it? And some of the headlines that we managed to get in there that are still there now, still relevant, just really. It really just was that evolution that just kept everything just seemed to
fresh,
click and work. And then we came to our About Us page.
Oh, no. This is one of my favourite stories to tell. I love About Us pages on websites, but I hate making them. And my own is awful, and I'm going to redo it. It's on my list to redo at the moment. What's really interesting about Us is it's often the page that is really important to potential clients. They want to get to know the team. And you and I were talking about this on, I think it was on a Zoom or a phone call, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool to do something really different? So you know how on a lot of websites, the About Us is like, here's the team. My name is Scot and I have a dog and like country walks and football. And it's like, and then it's that whole kind of, don't be boring. And we were just talking about it. I said, wouldn't it be cool to do like a kind of Top Jaw style interview? And you went, that's great, will you do it? And I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to be on front of camera. But what I really liked about it was we managed to get over the personality of the business and the team. And because what was really interesting for me working with you and Bal and Mango and all the team was that you guys live and breathe hospitality. I mean, I love restaurants and I'm fascinated by food. You guys are like another level of geeky on this stuff. And we were thinking about how can we show the fact that we're geeky but human. And what was so much fun was literally going up with a microphone going, right, what do you have for breakfast? What's your go-to restaurant? Where's the best place for hospitality? And I remember you saying Chick-fil-A and me being a little taken aback. And that comes out on the video.
Yeah.
And what's really funny is there are so many of my friends that have seen those videos and absolutely love them. And what I like about it is seeing the personality of the team. And what's really interesting, we go back to that whole fake and real. And I know people going about authenticity, it's like it's one of the words I really dislike. If anybody ever says to you, I'm being authentic, like, run. Like, there's that little bit where it's okay for other people to say it about you. What was so exciting about the About Us was, for me, it was capturing you guys authentically, like, and asking you questions and getting that personality over, and your dislike of passing I'll never understand. But there's this little bit, for me, the Auden personality comes out in About Us, because it allows people to get to know the team without having to read death by words. It's a minute video for each member of the team, and it gives you a really good insight as to that person, their likes and dislikes, and it's just done in a really different way. I don't know if you've had any feedback on that.
Do you know, it's funny, whenever I do workshops, or I go where I have to introduce myself now, I don't introduce myself. I just say, hi, I'm Scot, I'm from Auden Hospitality, let me tell you more about me, and I play the video. And because it's just much more fun, right?
What was really funny about that video, I remember shooting it with you, and it must have been autumn time, and I remember you being a little nervous. I'm like, come on, let's just pretend we're having a conversation like you and I often do. And then all of a sudden, it just was, the Chick-fil-A bit just made me laugh, and you going on about Yorkshire pudding, so you can have it for all 3 courses. Yeah. And for me, we go back to that crappy first video. That crappy first video didn't show Auden for what it was, or how I saw it. Because I always saw Auden as this really interesting organisation that makes a difference, that challenges people, that does some really cool stuff. And what was so interesting, the About Us for me is almost the perfect representation of Auden, because everybody else would do text. I like country walks and football. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, choose your team wisely. But the point of it was, it showed your personality, and it showed it in a way that was different to any other consultant's website.
Best place in the world for hospitality?
Gramercy, New York.
Why is it good?
Because they know how to do hospitality. They know how to touch, they know how to feel, they know how to... It sounds a bit dodgy, but they know how to get you.
Yeah, boy. Best hotel you've ever been in the whole wide world?
I'm not really a hotel-y person. For a villa.
Favourite villa?
Aston.
When you said about being bold, and I said to you, can you live and breathe it? The About Us is the perfect representation of that.
Yeah. So part of the mantra, and part of what Auden is all about, and I'm really strong on this, is that oldest friend meaning. And I think it's something that we stuck very close to, as well as being able to develop the brand. And part of that is, yes, you can put your arm around people, but you can also challenge the sometimes terribly honest with you, a la your video. I think that whole thing then, because that was so prominent in the brand and where it went to, when we'd done the branding, we'd done the brand ethos, the DNA, we'd transferred that into brand profiles, into the way we did decks for concepts and for clients, the way we spoke or the way I spoke at conferences and that type of thing. We then started looking at how we start doing more from a marketing perspective as Auden, and what that meant in relation to how we developed that DNA. And I think at the time we were doing LinkedIn every single day, but apart from that, we'd started thinking about video, but it was video more on LinkedIn. It wasn't really the best thing. And one of the things that came out of that whole mantra around oldest friend was conversation. And I think this is a great way of how it explains how, if people are working with someone like yourself who helps with that whole ethos, that there's a continuation after that can really keep evolving that. And part of the reason we're together today, we're filming this, but we're going to go and do a strategy session after, which we're doing now about every 6 months. But that whole bit of how we could connect, how we then talk about the brand and live the brand externally with that mantra we just built, was super important. So let's talk a bit about conversations and creating conversations, because I think this is it's a great way to talk about how you can evolve that into the external facing language and ethos as well.
I think what's fascinating is lots of people talk about marketing, and they see it as a whole heap of tools to bring you sales. When you come out of that a little bit, for me, for a business to evolve, it's about having conversations. It's about having conversations with your existing customers. How do you make them better? How do you serve them? How do you help that hero on their journey? But it's also about having conversations with people you may have never worked with before. And people are very quick to go, well, actually, you should do TikTok, or you should do Instagram, or you should do LinkedIn, or whatever, email marketing, whatever it is. Go back to the basics. How do you have conversations? What I think the DNA gave you guys was also the freedom to go and have conversations. And I think that's what's so interesting about when I look at the evolution of Auden's video content. Actually, it's about having a conversation. Here's some cool stuff we did in Kenya. Here's some cool stuff we did X, Y, and Z. And sharing that and having conversations and showing people what it is you stand for. And I'm saying show, not tell, because, you know, there is that whole ethos of be the show, not the commercial. Yeah. And I really like that. What I think the DNA gave you was a platform in which to go and have conversations. It almost, again, it goes back to that liberation and freedom. And I think for you guys, when you got the DNA and when you started to really understand that it's not just a logo, it's a way of life, it gave you the freedom to go, right, we'll bring back the podcast. We're going to do video content. We're going to shout about the amazing people we work with and what they do. And I think all of a sudden, the way that you guys have a conversation, the way you do that might have changed. But actually having those conversations with that intention behind it of like, we just want to talk. We just want to share what we do. You know, that's the building in public. But the DNA gives you the structure in which to do that. And seeing how much more you're doing is amazing. And I hope that the DNA gave you the platform in which to do that. I
think, do you know what it is, you know, you've said it there. We have the podcast where we have the conversations with the right people. It's not always hoteliers. Sometimes it's outside people who push. Yep. We've had the Las Vegas, Budapest, Texas. We're going to go to Denver next year. We're going to do stuff at the Independent Hotel Show, like getting on stage and talking. Then we've got like the white paper that we did with Hot Stats. Then we've got just general going to events and meeting different people and having conversations with different people. And then there's going to be more to come that sits after this. I guess what it's helped to do is put clarity on, back to that whole thing of what's the right thing to do. Is it right within our brand? Like who we're working with, who we're positioning with, where we are. Is it the right people? But also it's helped to make sure that the message stays consistent. So it doesn't matter whether we're on the podcast, it doesn't matter whether I'm on stage, whether it's a white paper, whatever it might be, the language is the same. I did an article in Session magazine the other day, and when he had a conversation with me, I was like, I will do it, but it's got to be in my language, and it's got to be about what I want to write, and it's going to be about hospitality. And that hospitality is going to use examples from hotels. And it's just giving me the confidence to go, if you like what I'm talking about, that ethos has to stay there and has to stay true. And I think that's what's been really important, is it's allowed us to understand where we should spend time and where we shouldn't spend time, because that getting into the right places is equally as important as anything else.
And what's really pleasing to hear there is how you're now leading conversations. And I know you guys do a lot of listening as well to your clients, to the market. And listening can just be as simple as going for a walk, like walking around an area and picking up like what's going on. There's lots of different ways to listen. What I think is really interesting is that the DNA is also giving you a platform to lead conversation. And this, what's fascinating is seeing the confidence that the business has in itself. And I think that's the difference between that awful video, I'm going to have to think of another word for that, shit video, from where it was really well put together, but it wasn't about leading a conversation. It wasn't about all of that confidence that Auden has in the product, in the customers, in what they believe in. And I think what was so fantastic in seeing is this evolution of confidence in the business, because you really understand it. And you understand the values, you understand what we believe. And actually, I'm not going to work with you because you're not right. And actually, when you say no, it's sometimes really difficult, because from a cash flow perspective, you're like, But then there's that other bit where you think, how can I work with the right people? Because when you do your best work for them. And I think there's that little bit where so much of business is around confidence. And I know we talk about this a lot from an economic or a financial perspective, but I also think it's that confidence to tell your story. And that's one of the things that I've certainly seen the evolution of Auden, is that confidence to tell the story in the right way.
My name's Scot Turner. I run a hospitality agency. We work with hotels and we do food and beverage strategies for hotels.
What we're trying to do is we're trying to create different reasons for people to engage with the F&B in the hotels at different times of the day, and that's become much more important. What a lot of people forget is the simple things that cost no money sometimes go a long way. How do we create moments that people want to tell others about because it was so good?